This is a steal for the Bills. Buffalo started off round 2 of the NFL draft by moving up 15 spots from 56 to 41. They ended up drafting TJ Sanders, a defensive tackle out of the University of South Carolina. Sanders has the potential to really strengthen the Bills' defense this season with his high football IQ, explosiveness, and size. My name is Maeve Miller, and I'm a part of the Bills Digest team, so please subscribe to the Bills Digest YouTube channel for all the latest updates during the offseason. First, I want to talk about Sanders' time at the University of South Carolina. He is currently 21 years old and spent 3 seasons with the team. He's 6'4", 290 pounds, and his size, along with his speed and agility that he's able to have while being that big, is what really makes him stand out. He is very successful at his time at University of South Carolina and really stood out to teams, especially during the combine. When it comes to his stats, you can see his first year, it was a little bit of a slower start as a freshman, but towards the next couple of seasons, he started getting more into it. In 2023, he had 43 total tackles, with 28 of them being solo and 4.5 sacks. And these numbers kind of increased a little bit and stayed the same in 2024, where he had 51 total tackles, 29 solo tackles, and 4 sacks. And usually you want to play with a little more sacks than that, but he's very versatile in other ways that helps the defense compete against the offense. He's very good at disrupting the passing lanes and getting way up in quarterbacks' faces. As I mentioned, he is very big, but he has a really quick first step, which helps him get off the line quicker and beat out the offensive line. And the Bills usually run a 3 technique where he would normally line up between the guard and the tackle, but he also can line up as the 1 tech where he'd start opposite of the center. And I think this versatility really helps defensive coordinators. They're going to be able to move things around and put different players on the edge or in the interior, which will be good. And another thing that he's really good at is like shooting the gaps and just getting there quicker than the offense. And I think that'd be really cool to see. You can see in his highlights, like him against Kentucky, he just gets right up there so quickly that it's kind of amazing for a man that size, and that it really catches quarterbacks off guard and he's able to sack them. Similar to a lot of other players that the Bills have drafted, he's part of the SEC, and I think players that come out of in the SEC, they end up doing really well in the NFL because they're used to really high levels of competition. I would say the SEC is probably the most competitive football league in the NCAA, and I think having that experience of playing against elite quarterbacks and elite teams will really help his transition into the NFL, because you never know if a player is going to be successful, or sometimes it is a very high degree of playing, so you never know how it's going to go. But seeing his highlights and seeing how he plays, I'm confident in this ability. There were some improvements that people were talking about, like strengthening his technique against double teams and getting more lower body strength to help with tackles. But I think this will all come with time, and he's only a rookie, so we'll see how that improves as he gets onto the team. So next I want to talk about how he will fit into the Bills lineup. The Bills have been making a lot of changes this season. They cut Von Miller, who was a big key of the Bills' defense, and they signed Joey Bosa, who is just an amazing, explosive player that I think will add a lot to the team. So there's also 2 defensive players, Larry Ogunjobi and Michael Hoyt, that were suspended for 6 games for PED use. And I think because of this, it's a very negative thing, but I think this might help Sanders maybe get into a starting spot quicker than if these 2 players are playing. And I think because of that, I may be able to compete better with other players. And obviously, when you draft a player, you do want them to start, but we have to see how preseason goes and how the first couple of games go. As of right now, it's projected that the interior will include Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones, and TJ Sanders, along with 2 other players, whereas the edge rushers will be more Rousseau, Bosa, and Epenesa, which I love that lineup. I think that's really strong. Rousseau and Bosa will be an incredible force of nature, and I think it'll be cool to see what Sanders can do playing with a guy like Ed Oliver or Daquan Jones, who are both very strong. There were a lot of defensive players drafted, and Sanders kind of talks about this, how the first 5 players that the Bills drafted were defensive guys, which is very interesting. And he just says he wants to make sure defense is one of our best areas on the team, and to make sure we're all understanding that it's going to be a lot of competition. For one, we got a bunch of great guys. We're all just here to work, continue to get better. We all got one ultimate goal. So I think it's interesting, the Bills, they were talking about like how they're going to be competing in preseason, and that it could be anyone's game because they do have a lot of players that might be suspended or out, or backups that could outplay the starter. So I think that'll be interesting to see. But I'm definitely confident in his ability after watching his highlights and seeing his personality. That I think it'll be a really good match. And Beane also said that this is a player that he really was looking for. He had his eye on him. He had watched him in a couple games, and he really liked that Sanders would not give up on a play, because you see players when they think they're beat, they just kind of give up. But Sanders uses that speed and agility he has to complete the play and complete the block, which is a really admirable quality. He also wanted to add an inside rusher to play against Oliver, so this could be interesting to see what happens with that. And I'm curious to see which players end up starting and where they end up going. But I think another key part about Sanders that I like is his personality. This is the second player from the Bills that have gone kind of viral in the draft for just being like high energy and really positive and just seem like good people. In this clip, he was at the draft, he's going to the food tables, and he asked his mom about like if she's hungry. And while it seems like a very small thing, it's definitely the kind of player the Bills want. You can see this with Harrison when he was congratulating all the players that were making it into the draft, even though they were ahead of him. That's just the kind of energy and personality that I think the Bills want. And players like Josh Allen, Tre'Davious White, Deion Dawkins, they just have that kind of energy and just happiness, which I think is a really good quality to have. You know, we've had issues in the past with like players like Stephon Diggs that are a little more like diva-ish, and no one wants it on a team because it really affects the locker room. So I'm hoping that, from what I've seen, he just seems like a great guy, and Beane has said that, and other coaches have too. I think combined with his skills, the Bills have been kind of struggling with rushing against the quarterback in their four-man rush and not being able to get to the quarterback, and I think that's something that Sanders is really good at, and I think drafting him has helped fill in some of the gaps. The Bills have also drafted other defensive tackles, so I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with that coming up. But I'm excited to see what Sanders does, and I hope he's a good fit for the Bills. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go Bills.